everyone, my name is Stephanie and I'm the Regional Youth Coordinator of the Guaico Regional Youth Assembly of the Guaico Pastoral Region. I'm also a psychology graduate of the UWI St. Augustine. Welcome to a discussion on mental health. It's an initiative entitled It's Okay to Have Jesus and a Therapist Too. And today we have our very own elder and certified guidance counselor, Ms. Bernadette Gyan Manickchand, who will be enlightening us a lot more about mental health and how we can cope during this time of isolation and quarantine.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our discussion this afternoon, where we looked at the impact that COVID-19 is having on our mental health, in our church, in our home, in society. And we wish to thank Stephanie for taking this initiative so that through discussion, questions and answers, we would be able to see the ways that we can cope in building resistance and so be able to survive this pandemic.
Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and helps determine how we handle stress and relate to others and make choices.
So we have heard the theoretical aspect of mental health as related by Stephanie. To me and to the lay person out there, mental health is simply having a sound mind as we go about our daily life functions. If we are not of a sound mind, we tend to make mistakes in our lifestyle that result in further stress that the pandemic is already contributing to.
The main psychological impact to the state is elevated rates of stress and anxiety. As new measures and impacts are introduced, especially quarantine and its effects on many individuals' usual daily routines and activities, levels of loneliness, depression, harmful alcoholic and drug use, self-harm and suicidal ideation are also expected to rise due to the negative impacts of COVID-19.
So Stephanie, you are one who have truly experienced the stresses of this pandemic. Being at the University of the West Indies in your final year, trying to complete your assignments and trying to get ready for graduation, how did you cope?
The pandemic has definitely caused a negative impact to my whole academic experience because the whole transition of online school, finishing your research projects, the statistical reports, getting guidance from your lecturers was definitely not easily accessible, and the whole change of virtual graduation and getting internship, it was a very difficult thing to do, and it has impacted me in a negative aspect in terms of me experiencing anxiety and frustration.
So Stephanie, in spite of it being a negative experience, you were able to complete your studies, graduate with honors, I know that, and would you say it was because that you are grounded in your church that you were able to do so well? Because there are many of us in church who still have a problem believing that God alone can help.
I would say yes, 100%, because without God I'm nothing. And my favorite Bible verse is actually taken from Jeremiah 29 verse 11, which reminds us that God has a plan for our lives. And I mean, in my times of frustration with this whole transition of online learning, my faith is actually what helped me overcome this through prayer and being grounded in the Word of God, because with God, everything is possible.
But let us say that many of us don't have that strength or belief that the divine intervention is what can help. What are other ways you think that we can cope when things get overbearing or when the anxiety attacks?
A support system is greatly needed. So a church family, your friends, your loved ones actually remind you that you are not alone in your fights and that you can achieve anything. And also find something you love doing, like baking or reading or watching a movie, relax and recharge. And what's my favorite thing is dogs. Dogs are comfort and therapy, and I think that persons need to find something that they could find that source of coping and comfort in helping them through their time of distress?
Well, there are many negative ways that also help us in coping. For instance, we can use medication, we can go to therapy, but in the long term, we find that these things doesn't work as well, because then it's as though we have an addiction. So we are now addicted to the medicine, we are addicted to sleeping pills, we are addicted to therapy, and we can't do without the therapist. We need to see the counselor, we need to see the therapist. You know, how else can we strengthen our minds mentally so that we are able to fight within ourselves?
So a good way is grounding techniques. Grounding techniques actually help you through your times of stress. So you can try breathing exercise.
We have seen that there are positive and negative ways of coping with situations we have no control over. This pandemic has led us to turn to many different avenues. Some of you have sent in questions that we are going to look at now to see if we are able to help in restoring sound mental health.
So the first two questions: how do you respond to or help individuals struggling with mental health issues, especially those in church? And it's easy to say you are not alone, there's God, or pray about it. But sometimes this isn't enough for those seeking help. What should I do?
I know you have a line that it's almost a philosophy with you, so would you care to share?
So the theme of this initiative is called It's Okay to Have Jesus and a Therapist Too, and it basically answers these two questions that reminds us that we are not alone, God is in control, but He also placed individuals in our lives to help us through a situation, to seek the help that is needed. And therapists are basically the instruments that God created to help individuals in their time of distress. So hence the theme, It's Okay to Have Jesus and a Therapist Too, is such a perfect reminder that do not be afraid to break the stigma. It's okay to be struggling with anxiety. It's okay to be struggling with mood disorders. Do not be ashamed of it.
Well, that was well put together. We go into another question that was sent in. How can I tell if someone has mental health issues? Well, firstly, we look at mental health as something that is internal. And when your mind is affected in an adverse way, it is only shown by your behavior. So we look at someone's behavior and we think, oh, that's abnormal. Why is she eating all that chocolate cake? Or why is she waking all night looking at movies? And we think, okay, mental health is being affected in this way because this is not normal functioning. So by observing behavior, we can tell if friends or family members or even our own selves are leading down that road of not having a sound mental health at this time. Stephanie, we talk about recognizing mental health issues in people. Do you think people in church or Christian people are capable of demonstrating ill mental health issues?
Yes, I think that mental illness affects all individuals of all walks of life. And I think as Christians, sometimes we tend to mask this, that we feel that, yeah, we're going to church every day, yeah, we believe in God, that we're so perfect and we're not going to face depression or we're not going to face anxiety. But to tell you the honest truth, all of us experience some form of mental illness, and sometimes we need to break the stigma, especially in our communities and in our church, to remind everyone that you are not alone. Having a mental illness is not a sign of weakness, and it's okay to speak up.
Stephanie, you were able to complete school through online learning. Now there are many today, including myself, who now have to get familiar with online learning and online teaching. What can you recommend to those out there who are having real problems with online learning?
So firstly, there are many individuals who have trouble with understanding the whole Microsoft and technological aspects of it. So it's important to actually find an individual who's knowledgeable in this area where they can help you and guide you and teach you how you can work about the computer and understand the different softwares. Secondly, it's important to manage your time properly and create a very organized workspace at home. So as much as you have one in school and at work, try to create one at home where you're able to block out any distractions around you and focus solely on your work.
Okay, well, those of you who are having problems with online, become informed and explore, practice all these steps. I had to practice steps. I actually write down, and I was able to get through with some videos and now send videos to the students. So the parents who are also worried about their children learning online, I know you think that it's not the same and that teacher must be in front of the class, but it is the new normal. And if we want them to be educated, this is the way we must go at this time. There are people who can cope, and there are people who we will call them low resilient. And these are the ones who eventually suffer from panic attacks and anxiety attacks. If these attacks are not dealt with, eventually they lead to depression. So how do we get ourselves out of the rut of suffering with anxiety and panic attacks, especially when we think we are alone with this problem?
So 2 questions that were sent in to us. How does one cope with feelings of anxiety and due to poor or weak mental health? And the pandemic has led to an increased number of panic attacks. How do I cope?
So what do you think about coping and coping mechanisms when someone is not strong enough or mentally sound to cope? How can they reach out for help?
Cases of extreme anxiety, you should seek professional help, see a counselor or psychologist. It's also important that you take responsibility for your own actions. So, firstly, spend time doing something that you love, like reading a book or exercising or even our furry little pets. They calm us down and remind us to be still and to know that you are not alone and that everything is okay. Also, what's important as Christians is our faith, and in times of anxiousness, God reminds us in His word to do not be anxious, but to be still, because He is the God that holds our hands every step of the way, and He will never leave nor forsake us.
One easy way that we can practice when we feel a panic attack is coming on is think about your 5 senses. You may not be able to apply all 5 at a time, but use your eyes and look around you. Find 3 things. You know, you can go up to 5, find 3 things in the room, focus on them, look at them, try to listen to 2 sounds, or and just focus, and you'll find yourself getting calm. So you focus on your breathing and you focus on your breathing. And like Stephanie is saying, if you are grounded in your faith, a prayer, a line from a psalm, you know, something, and tell yourself it is going to pass. This too shall pass, this too shall pass. And it does pass.
So one of the questions that was sent in to us is there medication or therapy available for the treatment of mental health issues? So yes, there is treatment available in Trinidad and Tobago. First, it's important if you have major depressive episodes or symptoms of depression, you seek professional help. You see a counselor or therapist where they will be able to professionally diagnose your mental health disorder and prescribe the necessary medication that is needed, and also give the psychotherapy or the cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, to access with this issue. We thank you for joining us today in our mental health initiative. It's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too. We thank you for those who sent in their questions. We hope we answered your questions effectively, and we hope it helped a lot. We just want to let you know that October is Mental Health Month, a month that is set aside for raising awareness for mental health and advocating for mental health. And it's important that we be kind to our minds and we be kind to others, because you don't know what they may be struggling with in life. And as Christians, it's also important for us to take care of our minds, because God created us in His image and likeness. And for us to be effective Christians, effective servants of God, it's important that we take care of ourselves so that we be able to take care of others. If you experience any form of depressive episodes, please seek professional help. See a counselor or a psychologist. Also, we have our ministers in church who are there to help us through our issues. So don't hesitate to call or message them. Our elders are there to help us reach out to them. So don't be afraid. Let's end the stigma and speak up. It's also important for us to stay grounded in our faith, and in the midst of our mental crisis, in the midst of anxiety, look to God, because without Him we are nothing. He reminds us in His word to do not be afraid and to do not be anxious, because He is holding our hands every step of the way. So when you feel like your life is sinking and that the storm is drowning us, remember that our lifeguard walks on water and He continues to rescue us each and every day. Look to Christ and Him alone.